Hey guys, welcome to Big Pete's Garage. This is not going to be a fun one. Now looking forward to this one. So I got a drivability issue. It has to warm up. It has to come up to operating temperature for it to happen. And it just starts bogging down, backfiring out of the intake. All kinds of weird things. I've been working on this for months. Changed the distributor. The distributor had a lot of play in it. The bearing inside the distributor had a lot of play. Changed the distributor. Bought a brand new scan tool. Nice one too. Maybe I'll pull it out later and show you guys. So I can run codes and everything. And actually it's a two-way scan tool. But long story short, I've gone through wiring. I've cleaned and redone all the grounds. Started just throwing parts at it. Mass airflow sensor, throttle positioning sensor, cam sensor, crank sensor. Just started throwing parts at it. But then the whole part about it only happening when it comes up to operating temperature, I kind of like had a dream one night and I popped up and I went, maybe my intake is warped or the intake gasket's bad or something and it's only doing it when it heats up. Metal expands, right? Maybe that's the issue. So I took some brake cleaning stuff and I started spraying it around the intake. And sure enough, the throttle, the idle, started surging. I'm like, oh, Christ. So I'm not 100% sure, but it does have a exhaust leak at the manifold. So I got to tear it apart anyway. So it's the same gasket on these. Same gasket for the intake or the exhaust. So it's not going to be fun. No. No lights involved. No flashies. But I got to do it. I got to get into it. So let's get into it.
Here's to you, and here's to me. Best of friends will always be. But if we ever disagree, you and here's to me. Yo, what's the crack? Where you at? Yeah, top of the morning. Let's tie one on. Bartender, keep pouring. Oh, Danny boy, I hear the pipes calling. Leave nobody out in the cold. Let 'em all.
So this is the scan tool that I bought. It is a Autel MK808 BT Pro. BT as in Bluetooth. So you can take the sensor, plug it into your OBD2, and it can actually search for the vehicle and stuff. I don't have it hooked up right now because I'm about to get in to start tearing the side of the engine apart. Just wanted to show you. But it's a great scan tool. And it has a million. You got to download them. And every time I turn it on, this thing wants to update. So when you go to use this thing, I guess you just have to let it do its thing first. But it's got so many vehicles already built into it that I had to download. Free downloads. Great tool. So the main reason I bought this, because I wanted to see actual voltage of each individual sensor. So this thing gave me the option to do, forgot what it's called, but you can literally look at each sensor individually as the vehicle is running and look at voltages, the signal voltages, because that's what I was having the biggest problem with, was trying to figure out, did I get a defective sensor? I threw all these sensors at it. Did I get a defective sensor? This, that, the other thing. So that confirmed with me. I needed the tool anyway. And it confirmed that my sensors are not the problem. They're all operating within the proper voltage. I've probed all the wires. There's no wires broken anywhere, not connected. I did the ohm test on them all the way to the computer. Computer is right there. I even put a new computer in it. I know. Poor choice on my part, but I was so frustrated. I was at a loss. So maybe it was the computer. So I got a reman computer, remanufactured. You send them the VIN number, they send you a computer. Still didn't do it. So now we're going to tear this intake down. And we're going to go from there. Because when I bought the vehicle, it ran fine. And out of the blue one day, it just started backfiring and hiccuping and all kinds of nonsense. And like I said, it only does it when it gets hot. She's cold right now. If you were to turn the key, she'd fire right off. She'd run beautiful. Once it gets up to operating temperature, though, it's just downhill from there. All right, let me get some tools out. All right, we got all the electrical connections undone. We got all the vacuum lines undone. I got the wire harness and all the fuel injector connectors all bungeed up to the hood. We got the power steering pump sitting off to the side. Got the fuel line disconnected and the serpentine belt. I also have it bungeed to the side. Hold it out of the way. All right, the only thing left now is the bolts going to the side of the head. And I did this job on my wife's Jeep. Hers is a 4-cylinder. This is the 6 4.0. And a bolt broke. And it sure was fun drilling it out. So, wish me luck. Here we go. Last bolt, I think. She's moving an awful lot not to be. All right, baby, come on off nice and easy for me. Come on, come on. Oh, we got fuel. Oh, yeah. Oh. All right, we got the intake off. And I think I found the smoking gun. I can't remember exactly which one it is, but one of these bolts down here, it was loose. I barely had to put any pressure on the ratchet, and that thing came off. And this one right here, which one is it? This one, it's like wet below. I don't know. It's above the gasket, but it's a little wet below, right there. Was that not sealing right? The back for the exhaust leak, I think there's a gap right there on that back cylinder. I think that's my exhaust leak. But I'm going to finish taking the bolts out for the exhaust manifold. This thing looks like a header, but I guess it's an exhaust manifold. I don't know if the last owner changed it. None of the bolts broke. Hallelujah. Well, shit. I think I just jinxed myself because I still got that one, and that one's not looking too healthy. Oh, Christ, I think I just jinxed myself. All right, hang on. Let me see if I screwed myself. All right, we got the exhaust unbolted, and I definitely found the exhaust leak right there. That back cylinder leaking away. And all the way down over there, there was no bolt. Now I'm worried about if the old bolt's still in there. I gotta check that. And I gotta order some bolts. But that cylinder was definitely leaking exhaust. The rear cylinder. Now, trying to come up with a solution for maybe the intake leaking. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but this one right here is a lot wetter than the others. Does that mean something? I'm not sure. I think it might. Leave a comment below if you think that means something. That might be fuel leaking out through the intake. Because none of the others are like that. This one's a little wet. But I think this one's got a weird thing on the other side here. Look at that. That's an intake port. And that matches up to right there. I gotta check the head. I don't know what's going on with that. But I think that's that and the wet spot on cylinder 5. Wet spot. I think that's the smoking gun right there. So I'm going to go check that bottom hole all the way in the corner down there. Obviously the worst one, especially if I got to drill it out. And I'm going to clean everything up. Oh boy. All right. Stay tuned. Well, my worst nightmare has come true. There is a piece of bolt broken off in that hole back there. I tried to thread another bolt in there. It didn't go. I cleaned off the area. And yeah, screw it. I can't get you guys in there. There's definitely a bolt broken in that bottom hole. So I'm going to have to drill it out. I got some left-handed drill bits. See if I can spin that one out. Otherwise, we got to drill and tap. Worst nightmare. And it's the worst hole. The worst one. All right, wish me luck. Ladies or significant others, if you walk into your guy's garage and he's got tools out like this, you just need to step back slowly and exit the garage. Drilling out that back bolt. I actually drilled out that back bolt. These right here, I am going to recommend these to anybody who wants to hear. I got these from the Snap-on guy. Never heard of them. Stiletto lefty. These are left-handed drill bits, but are very unique in the tips. Very unique. If it'll focus. Very unique tip. And that's what gave me a decent sized hole in a very tight spot. And I was able to get the tap on my right angle drill. And if you look, there is a bolt in that hole. I bolted up the exhaust manifold already to make sure I was deep enough that it bottomed out. And we are good. Oh my God. Sweating this one. Literally sweating. But I got it. Drilled out, got a bolt in it. All right, now to do some serious cleaning. Ah, nice and clean. Little rust paint on the bottom on the block. And then a little bit of high gloss on the side of the valve cover. It's nice and clean. All right, I'm going to move on to the intake manifold. Might as well clean that up too while we got it off. All right, got the intake manifold all cleaned up. That was a lot of scraping and scrubbing. Got it all taped up, and I've decided that I'm going to give it a coat of paint. So, here we go. So these studs, they're, I think they call them inverted Torxes. So it's an what do we got here? E8, inverted Torx 8. That's going to go right onto the end of the stud right there, so you can tighten that first. So we're going to get the front stud in, the back stud in. We're going to put the gasket back on. And then we're going to start snuging up our, we're going to put a couple bolts in to hold our exhaust, and then we're going to bring over the intake manifold. Start setting that on. So I didn't like the washers that came with the kit. They were really small. These are the washers they sent me with the kit. I'm going to go with the original washers. These ones, they're not biting much, if anything at all. I don't like it. I'm going with the original washers. They're a little rusty, but not bad. And instead of Loctite, I'm going to use a little dab of silicone. I looked at the old bolts, and yeah, great. Just dropped that one. So I used the old bolts. I looked at the old bolts, and they definitely got something on them. I don't think it's Loctite. I think it's silicone. So I'm going to silicone up the threads on all these bolts. Now let me climb underneath, get that bolt I dropped, and I got to clean it off because it fell in the dirt and it's got silicone on it. Ah. Okay, there it is, all back together. I did a little bit of more artwork on the electrical plastic piece that holds the electrical for all the fuel injectors. Looks pretty cool. Will you look at it? Will you look at it? All right, this is going to be the first start after the intake's back on. Intake and exhaust. I'm going to see if it has an exhaust leak. All right, let's turn this key. Went for a ride, popping and everything like it was before, higher RPM. And then out of the blue, the thing will just run mint. Don't get it. It's got to be wiring. It's got to be wiring. So then my neighbor was out. I drove across the street to go talk to him. I was headed out for another test drive. I came back, did a little adjustments. And he goes, his name is Pete too. Hey, Pete. Pete and repeat. So he goes to me, you know, I used to have a 2000 Jeep. And I had a wiring problem with the dashboard. With the key ignition, and every time you bang on the steering wheel, the thing wouldn't run right, and all these things would happen. And I'm like, interesting. So as I'm sitting there, Jeep's running. It's running pretty good at that time. As a joke, I start tapping on my steering wheel, banging on the dashboard. Freaking thing stalls. Oh, here we go. Now it won't start. It's cranking, cranking, cranking. Finally, it starts back up. Seems to be running all right now. So I ran down the block. Ran beautiful. The best it ever ran. I'm like, oh, is that what I got to do? I got to bang on the steering wheel every time I want this thing to run right. I had to drop something off, the wife's job. Turn around and come back. I couldn't even make it a block. Stalling, sputtering, stall. I got out. I played with the distributor a little bit. Got back in, banging on the steering wheel. Finally, the thing started up. Ran beautiful again. Ran beautiful all the way home. Pull in the driveway. I start banging on the steering wheel as for fun. You know, for fun. We got nothing else to do. Just go out to your Jeep and start banging on your steering wheel. Banged on the steering wheel when I got home, and the thing stalled on me. That's got to tell you something. So I reached down, I opened the hood, I reached down, I pulled the main harness. It's not a clip that goes into the firewall, it just goes through a big grommet. I grabbed that harness and I yanked it. Started back up and it ran fine. So, I guess I'm headed under the dash. Do some investigative reporting. Hopefully it wasn't mice. Mice didn't eat a wire or something, something's grounding out. So. Sometimes I had to walk away from it. Sometimes you just got to walk away from a project that's getting on your nerves before you do things that you don't want to do. And then you have more shit to fix. So I'm back. And it's hot as bull biscuits out here. Just drank my last water bottle. I have to go get more water. So I'm going to pull this thing back inside. And I'm going to crawl up under the dashboard and poke around a little bit and see what I see. I don't know what else to tell you. I'll let you know what happens. Alright, so I put the key back in the ignition and went to drive around a little bit, and every once in a while it sputtered. Didn't do that before. It's gotta be this. And look at all this play. Look at that. And the key comes out. But the truck's running right now. They say don't leave a lot of keys on your car key because that puts a lot of stress on the key cylinder. Look at all that play. I guess it doesn't really come into play much anymore because everything's push to start. I'm going to order me a key cylinder. I think we figured it out. Also, check this out, right? The key is in the on position. The vehicle is not running. You can hear my auxiliary cooling fan running. I have it on a switch. But it goes off with the key, right? So, over here, this is the key switch, ignition switch. I think that has a rod that comes across and turns this thing, right? Does nothing, right? Nothing happening, everything's staying on, the cooling fan's staying on. Now, if I were to take my key, put my key in, the ignition is in the on run position, right? I am just going to put the key in, all the way in and leave it. It's still in the on position. Now if I come over here and shake this, my cooling fan turned off. Listen. Hear that? With the key all the way in. Look, shuts off. If I take the key out, doesn't do it. Check that out. Yeah, baby. I would say that's confirmation of an ignition switch. Whew. So we're going to unbolt the ignition switch. And of course I watched a couple of videos because I'm YouTube certified on how these things come apart. I'm going to try to skate by a couple of things. I'm not taking the whole column apart. So we got a screw right there. See, it's a Torx, but it's a safety Torx. Got the little pin in the center. And there's another one over here. So, let me get that flashlight aimed down. So these are my safety Torx bits that I got here. I think it's a T10. So yeah, they have the holes in the top of them. I guess this is like a security thing. Do you ever go to a public bathroom in the stall and you look over at the bolts and stuff that hold the thing together? Most people don't, but I do. All of those bolts that hold those stalls together, they're all safety bolts. They all have a hole in the middle, so you have to have a special bit to get to them. Yeah, I know, I'm weird. I'm sitting in the bathroom stall staring at the bolts. It's all good, though. Alright, so let me get that unbolted and see what we got. Alright, so the next step was to remove this plastic beauty ring, I guess you would call it, off the ignition cylinder. Then you have to put the key in the ignition, turn it to the on position, and that'll allow you to push this button right here. At the same time, pull it out, and the whole cylinder comes out with the key. This is what we're left with. She's still not budging. So, and I can see a bunch of wear marks up in here, some metal shavings and stuff. Like, this thing is completely worn out. She's a moving. I need 2 hands to finish getting it out. Alright, there was another T10 on this side, underneath this little rubber flap for the blinker. And it pops right down. Came right down. So now we're going to disconnect this thing and we're going to bring it over to the bench to examine it. Alright, so I'm going to try to reassemble this thing on the table here. It's got a little spring. And I'm going to try to hold it together. I'm going to try to keep it together for you guys. I'm going to keep it together. But, pretty, interesting little mechanism right here. See, like, that thing right there is all worn out. There was metal shavings on that. And inside here, too, there's some wear. Now, the trucks say 99. I'm sure this thing has never been out of it. So this is what I think is happening. So let's put that back together like that. This is the actual switch. It's on the side of the column. This was over here like this. I'm not going to clip this in all the way. And I really don't want to break this little rod. It's plastic. Look at it. Look at it bending. I think I'll show you guys what that's about in a minute. What I think it's about. And I'm not going to go clip that all the way because I want to take it off when I show you. And then here's the key cylinder. The key cylinder, see how this plastic rod comes all the way over to here, and inside the key cylinder it goes into there? Well, if you don't have the key in, it doesn't go together properly. So when you push the key in, that little thing comes forward and it pushes against this brown plastic piece, and it also moves this type of contact right here. I'm assuming that grounds out somewhere because there's no other wires, so maybe that sends a ground signal that the key is in place. Remember, I was having a problem when the key was in the vehicle, that I was losing power to some circuits. Like the dashboard wouldn't go out, but my coolant fan would go out when the key was in. I take the key out, the key still turned, but what I think is going on here, like this is supposed to get clipped all the way up, right? And you have this little plastic thing goes inside. This is the actual ignition switch. This is what starts the vehicle. And you see it has, I think these are little test points here. And this last point over here is really crudded up. So as you turn the key, this thing turns inside, makes contact. Ignition on, key on, you know, yeah, key on, ignition on, same thing. And then your start feature. So when this thing goes inside like that, and then you turn your key, all is good. So I think this little thing is like a theft prevention. That if you were to rip all that out, and you would try to stick a screwdriver or something like that in there, I got scissors handy. So if you try to stick something in there and turn the switch, it won't do anything, because if you can see down in there, you really need something thin and long. Where'd it go? This thing to go down in there. I guess it hits some type of safety button, and then it'll allow, as you turn, all the contacts to be made. I think something is going wrong in this mechanism right here. I could plug it back in and run a whole bunch of tests, but when you saw me jiggling this thing before, when the key was in, and it was malfunctioning. So I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to order this. I'm going to see about ordering this, because it's worn. If it's a lot of money, I'm not going to do it. And the key cylinder. Maybe I'll get a new key cylinder, because this one, even with it on, oh, look, now the keys get locked in. The key was coming out before, see, it's all worn out. So that's off, that's on, and the key comes out. I guess it's kind of cool. I really don't use, I really don't lock my doors, because then I have to get my doors rekeyed. I don't know, we'll see about this. Let me order these other parts, and we're gonna go from there. I'm 90% positive that this is the problem. This is the problem of everything. This is probably why I'm losing signal, or it keeps throwing up a code for the cam sensor. Can you believe that? Because every time that key moves and wiggles, something in here is losing connection, and it's losing power to the cam sensor, which is making the engine bog down and backfire and spit and sput. Intermittent power, you know? I can't believe this is going to be the root of my problems. I even brought it to a shop, and they didn't trace it back to this. Alright, let me get this ordered. So I finally got the new parts in. Right, Bubba? Bubba's over here supervising. Good boy. These are the new pieces, right? This is the switch, and this is what they're calling the ignition switch actuator pin. These are the old parts right here. And when I put the key cylinder into this one, it is so much tighter. So much better it feels already. So these are the parts I got. This is the ignition switch actuator pin, which would be this piece. Came all as one unit. I never put anything together. And the switch itself, I went with a standard US 295. And that's it. I'm going to throw them in and see how it works. I think both of those pieces together were like 30 bucks. Amazon. Let's get them in. So there it is. All installed. that piece, you can't, this piece is original. This is a cover. The actuator pin is underneath that. And over here is the new switch. As soon as I put it together, well, first let me give you a tip. In order to get, which it's pretty obvious if you think about how it came apart. In order to put the ignition cylinder back in, make sure that your switch is in the run position ahead of time. It is so much easier to do that before you install everything. Because I could not get that cylinder back in, not realizing that I took it out in the run position. Put it back in the run position. Yeah. And as soon as I hooked up all the electrical and everything, and I turned the key on, the key is so much tighter now. It is so much better. As soon as I turned the key on, I heard my cooling fan come on. And there it is, guys, running like a top. And she is running smooth. Thank God. Finally. So, if you guys have a problem that you can't figure out, and you seem like you've crossed every T and dotted every I, check that ignition switch. That ignition switch sure caused a lot of problems. So that's going to wrap it up for this video. She's running good, knocking on a lot of wood. So we're going to get ready for Jeep night. I want to take the Cherokee to Jeep night. Really haven't shown it off yet, so I'm really excited about showing it off. So she's running good. And that's going to wrap it up for this video. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. Tell your friends to subscribe. Tell your friends' friends to subscribe. Just subscribe. Alright? Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. See you later.